Alrighty, thank you everybody for tuning in to this, the 19th iteration of the Konoha Companion. And this is Joshua, your Konoha Companion, as always. And on this episode, we're going to be covering episode 19 of season 1 of Naruto, entitled The Demon in the Snow. And to give you a quick breakdown of what happened on the previous episode, Inari was running through town trying to gather people up to fight alongside Team 7, but it fell on deaf ears. Haku escapes Naruto and sacrifices himself to save Zabuza by leaping in front of Kakashi's lightning blade, which the lightning blade is Kakashi's own jutsu that he developed. It isn't anything that he actually copied, which is really cool. It's his own thing. Zabuza shows no remorse and tries to kill Kakashi by slashing through Haku, so he's like a real thug. Kakashi dodges and manages to keep Haku's corpse from being ripped apart. Sakura learns of Sasuke's death and loses her composure and cries uncontrollably over Sasuke's corpse, even though it's like one of the 25th principle of ninja behavior, right? How you're supposed to act. You're not supposed to show emotion in the field, and she can't hold it together. She cries anyways. Kakashi and Zabuza continue their fight. Kakashi clearly has the upper hand. He winds up disabling both of Zabuza's arms by stabbing them with kunai. And just as Kakashi's going to end the fight, Gato and his horde of thugs show up and the episode ends, right? And so a lot happened on that episode. But this episode starts with the scene of Gato's horde having Team 7 and Zabuza surrounded at the end of the bridge, and the title screen comes in and Naruto reads "The Demon in the Snow." Zabuza turns and says, "Gato, I don't understand. What is all this? Why are you here? And who are all these thugs you brought with you?" And Gato responds, "Well, you see, there's been a slight change in plan. According to the new plan, you die right here on this bridge, Zabuza." And Zabuza's obviously shocked by this. He's not familiar with this plan, and he asks, "What?" And Gato continues, "That's right. You're too expensive, so I've decided to take you off the payroll. Of course, I've given these thugs I bought with me, of course, even these thugs I brought with me cost something. So if you could manage to slaughter a few of them before they take you down, I'd appreciate it. Think you can manage that? Do you, Ninja of the Mist?" And he snickers, and he goes, "Look at you. You look about as demonic as a wet kitten." And Gato's just an asshole. Like, I ain't a fan of Zabuza, but like, man, Gato can get the business from anybody. Gato's definitely higher up on the totem pole of people that I dislike at this point. And at this point, his gang of thugs busts out in laughter. And Naruto, seeing all of this, thinks there's so many of them. One rogue ninja was bad enough. And Zabuza remarks, well, Kakashi, it would seem our fight is at an end. Since I'm no longer under Gato's employ, Tazuna is safe, and we have no quarrel." And as Gato walks up to Haku's lifeless body, Kakashi says, "Yeah, you're right." And Gato, standing over Haku's body, goes, "That reminds me, you little punk. You grabbed me and nearly broke my arm. I've been meaning to repay you for that." And he kicks Haku's body in the face. Kicks his corpse. And he chuckles and remarks as he pokes Haku's head with his cane, just like straight up disrespecting Haku's body. He then chuckles and remarks, "I only wish he was alive to feel it." And Naruto yells, "Get away! Get away from him, you scum!" And he charges Gato. And Kakashi has to grab Naruto by the jacket and tells him to stop and to use his head. And Naruto angrily yells, "Well, what about you, Zabuza? You gonna let him do that?" And Zabuza, without so much as even turning his head, replies, "Be quiet, you fool. Haku's dead. What does it matter?" And Naruto shrieks, "What? You mean you can just stand there and watch him get treated like a dog?" You and Haku were together for years. Doesn't that mean anything? And Zabuza turns and says, you don't understand the way a shinobi. I merely used him as Gato used me. Now it's over. His usefulness is at an end. The loss of his strength and skill, yes, that means something to me. But the boy, nothing. And damn, Zabuza's a cold one for this one, man. He's like, yeah, it sucks losing his effectiveness in battle, but like, fuck that kid, who cares? And Naruto responds, if you mean that, you're even a bigger rat than I thought. And Kakashi chimes in, okay, that's enough. Calm down, Naruto. He's not the enemy, not right now. And I don't know what you're talking about, Kakashi. Him and Haku clipped Sasuke. And as far as I'm concerned, this like blood feud for life. Like Zabuza doesn't get out of there if this is me leading the team. But Kakashi seems to be real chill all the time. Telling him to calm down. We're gonna see how it plays out. And Naruto yells out in frustration and tells Kakashi, shut up. As far as I'm concerned, he's enemy number one. And my man, Naruto, okay, we're on the same team. We're on the same page. I love it. And Zabuza looks down at him, and Naruto continues, panting, unable to control himself. Why you ungrateful? After everything he did for you, Haku lived for you. And it flashes back to Haku asking Naruto, is there someone precious to you? When they first met in the woods. And it brings us back to the bridge, and Naruto continues pointing at Haku. You were the most important thing in the world to him. And it flashes us back to the convo with Naruto and Haku in the woods again. And this time Haku says, for me, there's only one person who matters. And my purpose is to protect and serve him. And that purpose is what gives me my strength. And it takes us back to the bridge, and Naruto swipes his arms and asks, and he meant nothing to you? Nothing at all? It then flashes us back to Haku and his mask saying, the way of shinobi is very difficult for me. Naruto then continues to Zabuza, while he was sacrificing everything for you, you never felt anything at all for him? It then flashes us back to Haku attacking Sasuke in the Crystal Ice Mirror Dome, and Haku's voice can be heard saying, but I will do anything to see that his dream is fulfilled, even to become a shinobi if I must. Naruto, now with a saddened look in his eyes, continues, and if I became stronger, does that mean I'll become as cold-hearted as you are? He threw his life away, and for what? You and your dream? It then takes us back to Haku and Naruto in the woods, where Haku says, I only want to make his dream come true. That is my dream. And Naruto then continues with pain in his voice, you never let him have a dream of his own. But he didn't care. It then shows Haku lowering his head and saying, I was happy. Right? And the point is that Haku was happy to serve Zabuza. Like, he lived for Zabuza. Serving Zabuza effectively made him happy and gave him fulfillment. And you would think any normal person, right, would appreciate that and over time would develop some sort of emotion for that person. And Naruto seems really in tune with that, obviously, right? And Zabuza seems just completely removed from that cycle entirely. Naruto, at this point, clenches his fists in frustration and continues, you just tossed Haku aside like he was nothing. And it reveals that Naruto is crying while he's saying all this. He then continues, a broken tool, man, that's wrong, so wrong. And Zabuza simply responds, you talk too much. And at this point it shows tears hitting the ground at Zabuza's feet. And Zabuza looks up to the sky and it reveals that he's crying. And he says, your words cut deep, deeper than any blade. While he fought you, his heart was breaking in two. You see, Haku was always too soft and too kind. He felt pain and sorrow, and now, curse him, I feel them too. And something else, I feel content that this is the way it ends. And our man Zabuza actually cared about Haku the whole time. He's just been trying to, play the tough guy. Naruto hit him with the no-talk jutsu. He then undoes his face coverings and asks Naruto, "What, cat got your tongue? Surprised to discover that I'm human? Even shinobi are human. No matter how hard we try to escape that simple fact, we always fail. Well, at least, I've failed." He then calls out for Naruto, "Boy, give me your kunai." And Naruto somberly says, "Here," and tosses it in the air. And the kunai tumbles through the air, and as it tumbles, it flashes back to all of the ages that we experienced Haku at, right, as a young boy, in the transition age, and then his age now. And Zabuza catches the kunai in his mouth and rushes towards the crowd and Gato. And Zabuza, right, the very first victim of the no-talk jutsu. Our man Naruto hit him with that real shit and hurt him in a way that nobody else could, and now this fool is finna do work, let's see. And Gato sees this unfolding, so he scrambles and rushes into his horde and exclaims, "That's enough of this, do it, take him down, now." And the horde readies themselves for Zabuza, and one of the guys in the front remarks, "He must be out of his mind. One against all of us, what's he thinking?" And Zabuza rushes by and slashes the guy who was calling him crazy. And I guess he should have been more concerned with defending himself than talking clever shit. And Zabuza rushes through the crowd, body checking dudes and slashing them with the kunai in his mouth. And the crowd starts to close in on him, and he somersaults out of there, and he gets himself a little bit more space. And several thugs try and attack Zabuza, and they all fail, and Zabuza dodges and attacks and slices them all up. And finally, a couple of thugs manage to stick him in the back with their spears and their pike. And Zabuza just literally keeps charging forward. They stab him, and he doesn't even turn to address them. He just keeps charging forward towards Gato. And Gato is making his way through the mob as fast as he can, and he finds himself at the edge of the bridge, right? There's nowhere left for him to go. And he turns, and Zabuza erupts out of the group, and he comes rushing at him, and Gato screams in terror and begins whimpering in fear, and Zabuza comes towards him, and Gato sees a giant red demon face form behind Zabuza, and Gato exclaims, "He's the devil!" And I guess he don't look as demonic as the wet kitten now. And Gato again screams in fright, and Zabuza leaps in and slashes him with the kunai. And Gato groans and coughs blood, and suddenly Zabuza is stabbed in the back by a half dozen or so weapons by the mob. And Gato, it's revealed, has the kunai sticking out of his chest, and he says to Zabuza, "Crazy fool, if you're so eager to join your friend, go ahead, but you're not taking me, not this time." And he wheezes in pain, trying to catch his breath. And Zabuza is leaned over with several weapons protruding from his back, and he says, "I won't be joining Haku. Where he's gone, I cannot follow." And he then lurches up and towards Gato, and Gato screams, "Stay back, stay back." And Zabuza leans down and looks Gato in the eye and says, "We wouldn't be welcome where Haku's gone to. Hell is where we're going, Gato. I can't think of a more fitting destination for a demon ninja, can you? I'm told there are many demons down there of all shapes and sizes. Oh yes, I should fit right in. You, on the other hand, Gato, well, I fear you're in for a long and very painful eternity." And Zabuza then grabs the kunai from Gato's chest with his mouth and slashes Gato twice, knocking off his glasses. and Zabuza winds up for another swing, and he steps on and crushes Gato's glasses, and he lunges with everything he has, channeling his inner demon, and slashes Gato, sending him flying off the bridge. And Gato plunges into the water below, and everyone is shocked. And what a fucking gangster. Zabuza ain't one to be fucked with. This dude has basically gotten his ass beat by Kakashi and some ninja dogs and the rest of Team 7. He went through and beat the shit out of a whole crowd, got stabbed, couldn't be stopped, went and offed Gato, and has, man, redeemed himself to a certain degree in my eyes, right? He cared about Haku. He was just trying to play it tough because he's in the middle of a fight. He just killed the shit out of Gato. Fuck it. I don't care what happens from here forward, man. Zabuza's a real one. He's got, I'm even going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That whole assassinating the Mizukage thing, he was certainly doing that because, they were the bad guys who were doing the Blood Mist Village, who were making people kill their teammates and shit in order to become graduated ninja. And I guarantee that fool is going to go and try and do something maybe a little bit more decent. Certainly not have, the ninja trainees killing each other. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. We're going to see if they reveal any more about all that. Zabuza at this point turns and looks at the mob, and they all gasp in unison and drop their weapons and step away from Zabuza. Zabuza steps towards them, and they all just part like the Red Sea, and the path that the crowd clears leads right to Haku. And Zabuza drops the kunai, and he starts walking towards Haku, and his vision blurs, and he stumbles, and he falls to the ground, and he calls out for Haku. And he, at this point, sees Haku in his pink dress that he was gathering herbs in. There's a beautiful orange-white light behind him. And Zabuza says, "So this is goodbye at last. Not once did I ever thank you, Haku. Forgive me for that." And this is all very painful for Naruto to see, so he closes his eyes and looks away, but Kakashi tells him, "Don't look away. When you live like a warrior, this is how it ends." And Naruto opens his eyes and groans, and the scene goes black, and you hear a heartbeat, and the screen fades to black. And from there, the black screen starts fading from black to blue, and you can hear Sasuke's voice saying, "Am I alive? Where am I?" Or, "Sakura? Can it be?" It is. And you can hear a girl sobbing, and then the blackness recedes to the blue sky to the point of, vision. You can see it's clearly someone's point of view. And then the point of view moves downward, and you can see Sakura laying on Sasuke as though you're looking through Sasuke's eyes, and he's looking down at her. And then Sasuke says, "Sakura, it's hard to breathe with you on top of me." And our man Sasuke is alive. Let me find out. It would have been wild if they killed him that quick. It would have been real wild if they killed him off that quick. But at any rate, Sakura gasps and looks up and realizes that Sasuke is alive and just erupts in crying. She just cries even harder and yells out for Sasuke. And then says to Tazuna that Sasuke is alive, and she gives Sasuke the biggest hug ever, right? And Sasuke groans and complains about how the hug hurts effectively. And Tazuna pushes his glasses up and thinks, so things turned out right after all. And Sasuke tries to sit up, and Sakura tells him, No, what are you doing? You shouldn't move. And Sasuke then asks, how's Naruto? What happened to the guy in the mask? And Sakura tells him, Naruto is just fine, but the one in the mask, he's dead. Sasuke is shocked by this, and he picks his head up to look at Sakura and asks, dead, but how? Did Naruto do it? Sakura shakes her head and says, oh, I came in late. I'm not sure what happened. He was protecting Zabuza. I had faith in you, Sasuke. I knew you'd pull through. You're too cool a guy to stay down for long. Sasuke then looks over at Haku's dead body and thinks, he never meant to. Not from the very beginning. Realizing that Haku had never intended to use lethal force and never did. He only super effectively temporarily incapacitated Sasuke, and he knows it. He got off lucky, being let off the hook by someone who was more talented than him. Sakura then yells for Naruto as Sasuke stands up. Naruto turns and sees Sasuke standing up, and Sakura's waving triumphantly, yelling, Sasuke's all right, he's all right. Sasuke gives him a subtle wave, and Naruto swells with joy, realizing his entire team is safe. He then says aloud, but how? He then turns to look at Haku, and he flashes back to when Sasuke and himself were getting thrashed in the Crystal Ice Mirror Dome. We then hear Zabuza's voice saying, while he fought you, his heart was breaking in two. You see, Haku was always too soft and too kind. Naruto then thinks, I see, as he pieces together the truth of Haku never intending to use lethal force in their fight. Kakashi looks at all this and says, well, will wonders never cease? Amazing. Suddenly the hilt of a weapon bangs on the ground and one of the thugs yells, yoo-hoo. Another yells, don't go getting too comfortable. This party ain't over yet. Who's going to pay us now that Gato's gone? The de facto leader of the group, who got Team 7's attention originally, adds, no way we're leaving here empty-handed, so we'll just have to hit that village and see what they've got for us. The men at this point all start yelling and cheering, and boy, these guys are dumb. They just got their ass handed to them by a disabled Zabuza who was solely interested in killing Gato, right? Like, if Zabuza's intention in that moment were to kill all of those dudes, he would have. But he was going after the king piece on the chessboard, right? And he kind of got taken down in the process, but he won the game, right? And he was just playing a different game, right? If these guys are going to try and take on Team 7 its entirety, they're about to get their asses super handed to them. But Kakashi looks up at Naruto and says, not good. Naruto then turns to Kakashi and says, come on, Kakashi-sensei, you must have a jutsu that can take care of this bunch of losers. Kakashi responds saying, not right now, I use too much of my chakra. The leader of the mob then points his weapon at Team 7 and yells, get 'em, boys. The entire mob then comes charging directly at Team 7. And just as they're about to trample Haku's body, an arrow comes flying in and lands on the ground in front of the leader. And this stops the leader and effectively stops the rest of the mob too. It then reveals Inari with his crossbow and the rest of the townspeople. And it was the townspeople, right? That mob wasn't Gato. It wasn't Gato that stopped by Tazuna's house. It was actually the mob. Gichi and the gang must have showed up. Gang, man. Yeah, we got our own mob now. And, the beat builds. And Uncle Gichi, which, by the way, Uncle Gichi's the one who turned Inari away initially and was the one who got run off by Tazuna for being cowardly during the construction of the bridge, yells, there's one little thing you're forgetting about. Before you set one foot in our village, you'll have to go through all of us. And the townspeople all scream and raise their weapons in unison, and even Tsunami is there next to Inari. Naruto sees this and calls out for Inari excitedly. Inari chuckles and raises his fist and says, "Heroes usually show up at the last minute, you know." Bro, shout out Inari for quoting Naruto. Naruto's legend is already building. This dude's already being quoted by local heroes. Let me find out. Naruto is going to be a legend. Like, Inari's going to be a legend, right? And Naruto is Inari's legend. So, like, the gears are already in motion for Naruto to be, like, that dude forever. Tazuna sees this, and his eyes whelp up with tears, and he remarks, "They've all come, the whole village." It shows the size of the mob of townspeople, and it's easily 3 to 5 times the size of the mob of thugs. The thugs all gasp as their confidence leaves them. Naruto then turns and thinks, "No way I'm gonna miss out on all this fun." He then casts the Shadow Clone Jutsu and makes a whole bunch of clones. Kakashi then thinks, I might have just enough chakra left to help you out. Kakashi then casts his own Shadow Clone Jutsu, Kakashi style, and he makes a whole shitload of clones too. And at this point, the thugs are basically pissing down their legs, right? They've got a mob of townspeople that's much larger than them. They've got a whole bunch of Naruto clones. They've got a whole bunch of Kakashi clones. I mean, these guys are outnumbered 5 to 1 at this point. So they're about to get their asses like mega kicked. All of Kakashi's clones ask in unison, "Okay, still want to fight?" And at this point, the men scatter for their lives. They all hit the boat. I guess they all showed up on one boat. And they're all like clinging to the boat for dear life. The boat's like pulling off, and people are still like trying to jump onto the boat. Like, they're getting the fuck out of there, is the point. Inari raises his fist and yells, "Victory!" And the townspeople all celebrate in triumph. And as the celebration continues, Kakashi walks over to Zabuza, and Zabuza says wearily, "Sounds like it's over." Kakashi confirms this for him. Zabuza then says, "Kakashi, I have a favor to ask." Kakashi seems willing enough to oblige him and asks, "What is it?" Zabuza then asks for Kakashi to take him to Haku so he can see Haku one last time before he passes. Kakashi pulls his headband down over his eye, his Sharingan eye, and obliges him with a simple "sure." Kakashi pulls all the weapons out of Zabuza's back and carries him over to Haku. Real quick, if you're trying to keep someone alive, you don't pull the weapons out because the weapon being stuck in there is keeping the blood from coming out a lot faster, right? Like in real life, you pull these blades out, the blood pressure drops a lot faster and you pass out immediately. So if someone's ever in a bad spot and you're trying to make sure that they get this their last moment, right? Don't pull the fucking knife out. Right, they're only going to be able to stick around if the knife stays in. You pull it out, and all the blood comes out, and they go. And so, I digress. Right, that wasn't intended, but it happens. Kakashi then carries Zabuza over to Haku, and as he's walking over, it starts to snow. And the townspeople all look up in amazement and remark on how it's impossible for it to be snowing in this time of year. Zabuza, looking up to the sky as Kakashi carries him, asks, "Is that you, Haku? Are you weeping?" Kakashi then lays Zabuza down next to Haku, and Zabuza thanks him. Zabuza looks over to Haku and says, "You were always by my side. The least I can do is be beside you at the end." And Zabuza gasps for air and shakily reaches up to touch Haku's face and says, "I know it cannot be, but I wish I could go to where you have gone. How I wish I could join you there, Haku." And Zabuza lets out one last long breath. And A single tear falls from Haku's eye as the clouds open, allowing for a column of light to shine on Haku and Zabuza in the snow. Naruto, looking at this, crying, says, "He told me where he came from, it was always snowing, all the time." Kakashi responds, "Of course, his spirit was as pure as the snow. You never know, Zabuza. Maybe you will join him there. Who's to say?" And the scene fades to white. And man, if this doesn't wrench your gut, you ain't human. Like, this ain't for you. You need to go, I don't know, break rocks with rocks for a while. Go do something productive. Hell, whatever. Next, we see Zabuza's blade sticking out of the ground with the sun setting behind it. And Sakura is asking as she walks away from a cliff with two crosses signifying the burial places of Haku and Zabuza. She asks, "Is that really it, Kakashi-sensei? Is that the ninja way, to use and be used like tools?" Kakashi responds, "Shinobi are all simply tools in the hands of destiny. No point in wondering whether it's right or wrong, it just is. It's the same in the village hidden in the leaves." Naruto turns and says, "Well, if you ask me, if that's what being a ninja is all about, something's out of whack. Is that why we go through all this training, just to end up like them?" And Sasuke asks, "What's the reason for that?" Kakashi sighs and lowers his head and says, "Well, it's a question without an answer. And that is something we ninja have to deal with every day of our lives, like Zabuza and the kid." Naruto, standing between the crosses, raises his head and triumphantly says, "Okay." Everyone's a little confused by this, and at this point Naruto looks up into the sky and says, "I've come to a decision. From now on, I'm finding my own ninja way. A way that's straight and true and without regrets. From now on, I'm following the way of Naruto." This makes the rest of Team 7 chuckle, but, I mean, again, Naruto is so pure of heart and so pure of spirit and is so intent on acting out the contents of his heart, right? He is just completely honest, and it's beautiful. At this point, we transition to the bridge, which is now finished. It's big, beautiful, dope. It's a beautiful scene. Tazuna and all the major figures from the adventure are there, and Tazuna says, "We could never have finished the bridge without you," referring to Team 7. "I can't tell you how much we're going to miss you." Tsunami says, "Do be careful." Kakashi thanks everybody for everything. Naruto then tells everyone not to get choked up. We'll come back and visit real soon. Inari asks Naruto if he swears he'll come back and visit, and Inari is obviously fighting back tears. Naruto yells shakily, fighting back his own tears, "Of course we will. You know, Inari, it's okay to cry if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. Go for it." Inari then puffs his chest out and says, "Who says I want to cry anyway? If there's nothing wrong with it, then why don't you go on and cry?" Naruto's eyes are like about to burst, but he defiantly says, "No, you first." At this point, they have like a little crybaby standoff, and Naruto finally says, "Forget it," and turns around and he just starts crying all over the place. And the moment he does this, Inari also starts crying. Sakura gives Naruto the side eye and thinks the boys can be so pathetic. Squad 7 starts walking away from the land of waves, and Tazuna thinks, "It was all his doing. That boy made you stronger, Inari, and you in turn made the rest of us stronger. It was thanks to that boy we were able to build a bridge to a place where we've never known, a place where we found our courage, a place to fulfill our dreams." A member of the group then asks, "Say, speaking of the bridge, Now that it's finished, what should we name it? Tazuna responds, yes, of course, and I know just the name. And the man goes, you do? And Tazuna says, we'll call it the Great Naruto Bridge. Tsunami giggles and agrees it's a very good name. And this is dope. They named the bridge that they defended after Naruto. So that's really neat. I wonder if that'll bear any significance moving forward, or if it's just like a neat little milestone. But at any rate, as Squad 7 continues walking, Naruto lets out one big laugh and says, when I get back, I'm going to let Iruka-sensei fix me up a whole mess of ramen to celebrate our mission accomplished. Oh, and just wait till I tell Konohamaru about my adventures. The kid's going to worship me. And Sakura says, hey. And Naruto responds, yeah. And Sakura goes, not you. Hey, Sasuke, when we get back, you want to go out and do something together? And Sasuke responds, I don't think so. Thanks. This stops Sakura in her tracks, and Naruto circles back to her and says, Sakura, I'd do something with you if you want. Sakura then grabs Naruto by the coat and punches him and tells him that was a private conversation. It then flashes to Kakashi, who asks, you sure about that name, Tazuna? Tazuna chuckles and says, it's a name that brought us good luck. It'll do the same for the bridge. I think this bridge will stand for a long, long time. Perhaps it will even be famous one day. The name Naruto, known throughout the world. That would be something, wouldn't it? And, Tazuna looks out over the water contently, and Inari wipes the tears from his eyes. And we get a bird's eye view of the land of waves, and everything is beautiful and peaceful, and the episode ends. And that's a wrap on the first arc of the series. I love that Tazuna's perspective on Naruto changed so drastically, right? He went from being the short one with an idiotic look on his face, who he liked to harp on, to being the one who he had the most respect for, who he named the bridge after, and who he just has nothing but positive thoughts about, right? And I think that's really cool. That was a really neat little growth pattern that they depicted in the first arc. And, I don't want to talk too much about the arc because I'm doing an entire episode on it. But at this point, you should know whether or not you're going to like this show, right? It'll hit you right in the feels, man. Zabuza was a human after all. He was just putting up a really strong front, trying to do his shinobi thing. I can't believe that we got to experience the no-talk jutsu for the first time, right? Naruto just spoke his most honest truth, and it connected with Zabuza in a way that was really impactful, and it effectively, helped instigate Zabuza going and taking out half the crowd and clipping Gato, which, by the way, Gato's dead. Thank God. I was so sick of Gato. Every time I saw Gato, I hated it. He was my least favorite character of the entire series. They did of the entire arc at least. They did a really, really good job of making him unlikable. But again, I want to talk about the entire arc, and I'm going to keep digressing, and so I'm just going to keep myself chomping at the bit by putting a bow on this episode now and saving all this pent up talk about Naruto that I have, and save it for the arc episode. So keep an eye out for episode 20. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, my name is Joshua, and I'm your Konoha companion. Please go like, follow, share social media stuff. Like and share the memes, comment, be friendly, guys. The whole point is to be friendly. Let's build a community, right? And again, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.